Now we're going live. Setting up. It looks like we are live. I don't see the YouTube window yet. There we go. Bringing up. So, okay. And we are live. Hello, Ameera.
Aloha.
So we have a couple minutes, but straighten out my screen here so I can see everything. I'm so happy you're talking with me about Atlantis and the Mer people, my Mer sister. So not a lot of people can relate or that have memories, right? That they can access. It's a pretty emotional. It was a pretty emotional time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found that
I think
out.
people kind of know, but unconsciously, and when they hear Atlantis Lemuria, something stirs within them, but they're not exactly sure what that means.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Okay, so let's get started. Ameera, thank you so much for being here. I really, I love you dearly. You know that, and I really appreciate you talking with me about Atlantis and the Mer, our Mer families. So, do you mind just telling everyone about yourself and your connection with Atlantis and Mer and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Ameera Beth, and I am a Mer healer, is kind of what I call myself, which essentially means that my healing gifts and my essence is water, and more directly associated with the Mer people and the great kingdom of Atlantis and the Mer kingdom. So I'm a direct conduit for the Mer beings and for the Atlantean energy. And my goal or my purpose, one of them here on this planet, is to kind of act as a bridge and communicate those messages and that symbology and all the things that we're learning right now in this reality, sort of take that from what happened during the time of Atlantis and with the Mer people and translate that into, this reality to help humanity and the ascension process we're going through. So one of the ways I do that is through past life regression therapy and intuitive readings and 13 chakra, Atlantean chakra aura readings and clearings. And just kind of being with me in general, if you are a person who feels close to the water, or feels like maybe you might be an incarnated Mer being or have an association with Atlantis Lemuria, those tend to be the kind of people who are drawn most to me to learn a little bit more about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And I believe that's probably why we were drawn together, wouldn't you think?
Yes.
Because of that Mer, our Mer history.
Yeah, for sure.
Our passion with that way of life.
Obsession.
Obsession. There you go. We're Mer-cessed. Yeah, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So just for the people watching, I'll share a little bit about my, or why I wanted to talk to Ameera Beth about Atlantis and Mer, the Mer people, the Mer world, Mer experience. I started having memories of Atlantis during my quickening. I'm going to say it's around 20 years ago. And I remembered a lot of things that I guess you could say the good and the bad, right? And so, and we can talk about all that a little bit later. And then that brought me to my memories of being a mermaid and having an existence as a mermaid and having a family. And it was all so, that part of me was so emotional, and I longed for it so badly that whenever I would go into meditation, they had to really kind of drag me back. Yeah, I would start singing or making sounds like, I remember that with you too, that sounds like a mermaid would make, that sound. that I'm like, where is that coming from? I had no idea that that was, that I could make that sound. And so I had to learn how to integrate the human part of me with the mer part of me, and I don't visit that part of me very often like I used to, because it's just such a longing. And when I had my near-death experience, my Yeshua, Jesus, who you call Jesus, took me to that planet and let me know that I guess as a reward, my
Yeah.
reward is that if I came back to the planet and it helped with us the ascension and repeating, not repeating the mistakes, that I can, that not I can, but that it would be very, very helpful for me in my karmic progress to be able to afterward, on that timeline, for thinking timelines, be able to go to that, be in that awareness, and that would be my dominant awareness, if that makes sense, rather than Earth. Not that I wouldn't be working with Earth on a different level. So that's a little bit about my history with Atlantis and the Mer people. So let's talk about Atlantis. We have a few people here watching. Thank you everyone for being here. It's so fun to do this live because we get, that
The
back and forth.
interaction.
Yeah, totally. So, do you mind sharing some of your memories with Atlantis and the Mers, Ameera?
Yeah, my first memories or recognition of being in the Mer energy kind of came by accident. I hadn't been awakened for very long, and I used to meditate daily as kind of part of my practice of coming into my spirituality and growth. And one day I was meditating, and my arms started to move on their own in this gentle, swimmy like motion. Like I would look up and there would be my arms doing these motions. I was like, what's happening? And I found out that this energy was actually through my whole body, and my whole body would move and rise independently of what my will is, and still does to this day. And I was, again, very new to all things metaphysical, and I really didn't know what was happening to me. But I did find that if I went close to people, like the person I was married to, and my hands would start to do these spirals and these movements, that I could take away headaches or calm my child to sleep, and like these different kind of healing things started to present themselves. And I was like, what's going on, right? And so ultimately that Spirit called me to go work with a past life regression therapist, a lovely woman named Julia Ingram in the Portland, Oregon area, who ultimately became my teacher and my mentor when I went into past life regression training. And that session with her changed my life so profoundly. I went straight into the Mer world, and on her couch was doing this up in the air, exclaiming, "I'm a mermaid, I'm a mermaid," in utter disbelief, because at that time I didn't even really know mermaids were a real thing. Right? And here I was, completely in this other realm of reality, swimming down in the water, literally on her couch, and in this other reality down to this domed underwater city, which I later learned was not Atlantis, but what I've called Merlantis, the Mer world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that entire session, and exploring myself as a multidimensional being, as a Mer being incarnated in human form, and why I was here, and why I came back, and why I took this form, and what I was here to do, as a human and as a teacher and a healer, was kind of birthed from that session. And again, it was so profound that I knew I needed to go into training and learn to use hypnosis, and take other people into these soul experiences. And the second one I had was with you, after we met.
Yeah.
On the couch in your home, and you were talking about how you couldn't come back, like people have to pull you back. I remember that, like I was literally like in tears, and actually you gave me a soul retrieval that lifetime, pulled me out of the water etherically, after the fall, and I think pulled out some of my family members too. And I didn't want to leave that reality, even though it was very difficult. Remembrance, I wanted to stay in the water. And you had to work me pretty hard to come back into this reality, because, when you visit what feels like home, and I think most of us spend our entire lives feeling not quite at home in our bodies or on this planet. We all kind of feel like, who are these people and what am I doing here? Right.
Right.
And when you figure out that actually, home is potentially the home of our soul, is in some of the realm and reality that we hadn't even considered. It's a pretty profound experience. It's a pretty expansive experience as to who we really are, multidimensional beings, and what we've gone through and what we're come through, and fine-tuning us into purpose for this incarnation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Yeah, I love that. So do you have any memories of Atlantis as a human being rather than and do you feel that your incarnate or your life as a Mer was in Atlantis?
The most of the memories I have are of being an Atlantean Myrrh who would shapeshift from Mer to human and come on land, and most of my memories come from the last fall 13,000 years ago, and that shaping and living and working among the humans for a spell, and then going back into the water. The memories I have of being a human Atlantean are mostly spontaneous memories that have been given to me because, of course, we're multidimensional and our oversoul divides itself up into many, many aspects. And, those memories, those spontaneous memories are part of why I have reincarnated. Some of my lifetimes in Atlantis were in the more nefarious sense, I guess you would say. And some of those spontaneous memories that I've had of being a human in Atlantis and doing some of the things that, that I participated in are part of the karma that I'm here to heal and make amends for those other parts of me that, passed on to the other side with a lot of regret and a lot of, not doing some very nice things out in the world. And I think that's true for a lot of us. We take on the karma of our ancestors, right? We're transmuting our ancestors. We're transmuting all kinds of family stuff, but we also transmute for our oversoul and for our other multidimensional aspects.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes so much sense. And that's what I've learned myself and experienced as well, is that we're transmuting for so much more than just this personality right here. And and it's what, another reason why we're here in this pivotal time, because
and that's why it's so hard too. We're working for a lot of people. We're working out a lot of stuff for a lot of different beings.
Exactly. Yeah. Good way to put it. Totally. Yes, I've come across a lot of, I call us transmuters, a lot of transmuters who are here to do that thing, that very same thing that we're talking about, transmuting for anytime something comes along, their job is to transmute it, right? And the more we're aware of it, of course, the better we are at it. But if I could share,
and if you think about like the communication age and the information age and the access that we have to so many people, to so many beings and opportunities in this life, we're like supersizing all this karma and all these lifetimes, because we can actually go in and access all the players and all the people we're connected to and clearing things up with.
Yeah, that makes sense. And because we are in this quickening now, planetary quickening, humanity quickening, it seems things just come up quicker, faster and faster for us to transmute. And that's why we're working, almost pretty much 24 hours a day. I feel maybe not on a conscious level, but in some level we are working to transmute. So we can bring as much as we can up into the fifth dimension. Totally. I I wanted to share a little bit about my memories. You know, and I know you do too. You just hold those memories so dear in that place within you, right? That is just
Yeah,
so precious,
sacred.
sacred. Thank you. Um, and I do remember quite a few when I was meditating very diligently every night. Every night. I mean, I still meditate every night, but not as long as I was then during my quickening. And during my meditations or in the middle of the night, I don't know if you want to call it an out of body experience or just a where I travel to, and it's just as real, just more real than anything here. I'd wake up or I'd find myself in a mer body.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I'm a little startled because I'm underwater and
Right.
I'm thinking, I can't breathe. I can't breathe, right? And so it took me a few times to be able to realize that I don't need to breathe. First of all, I don't breathe like a human breathes here. And second of all, I realized that I'm a water being, so I don't need to have to worry about breathing. And then I was able to get more comfortable with it. And what I remember this one instance in particular where a dolphin is in front of me, and he's like nodding his head for me to look down and pointing, his nose down. I look down and I'm actually, and this is not my body here, it's a much different body. It's a mer body, just strong, and I'm nursing a baby a mer baby. And it was like, and then I felt that flood of love and peace and joy. And it, you just, how do you describe that kind of thing in that existence, in that love for my family? And during my meditations, I realized I had 3 children in that lifetime that I was being shown. And there was many times where I would wake up, or in my meditation, I was laying in the water and on top of my mermaid, and he had his arms around me, and we're just floating in the water like that, with just, we're like one floating together like
Mm-hmm.
that underwater, and just, moving with the water and being one. And another one that really stood out to me was, and you may have these memories too, Ameera, is there a ocean, a body of water that you recognize? It does not look like it's from today or on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's like liquid plasma light.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the one I remember, I just remember coming out many times while I wake up and I'm sitting or standing on a boulder or a rock, and I see the water just it's very different. It's very different than
Mm-hmm.
here. And I don't
Right.
think of it as the one I see. It isn't plasma light, but it's just very different. It's a dark green color,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got swirls, and it has waves up against the rocks and stuff like that, but it feels like home, but it's just very different than our oceans.
Yeah.
I don't know, it feels deeper, and I'm not going to say darker, but a deeper color. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember once where I'm standing on a rock, and I do remember shape shifting as well. I'm standing on a boulder or a rock, and I look down at my body, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am so strong. I was like, I could not believe how strong and in shape my body was. The strength of it was ridiculous. You're like that now anyway, but for a normal person, okay, it's like, this is so, I feel so strong. I could feel it, the strength. And experiences like that, I've had quite a few where it was just such a how do I put it, a deep consciousness, a deep connection
Mhm.
that I, to that life that I wouldn't find. I don't think we can find here.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
We
totally.
find that, in our journeys and our meditations and our regressions. And sometimes we find that feeling in another person and part of our soul family, and we can kind of recreate it in those realms and remember that that's, to me, that's what's real.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah. And it's just a different, it's another existence, right?
Right.
And I believe we all have these existences that we, that we resonate with, the most. Some it might be human. Who knows?
Mhm.
This is a hard, a hard frequency, a hard dimension here on this planet. And so some, resonate with other types of beings or existences. I mean, I resonate with quite a few, but that's one that's just being in water and being so free in the water is
Yeah.
really amazing. Yeah. So how about if we speak to the, let me see, we've got a couple of comments. Timothy. Hey, Timothy. Hi, Debbie. Debbie's here. Timothy says has a strong connection to water. He only remembers a few things. Okay. During the Atlantean times. Okay. And somebody else kind of wrote a, what? Is that a rude comment? Okay. I will ignore that. All right. All right. There's all kinds out there, I guess. Okay. So let's talk about the what we might call the negative aspects of Atlantis that we remember. Okay.
Well, in
Start.
Atlantis, most people associate Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis with like a lot of bad things catalysting and creating the circumstances in which Atlantis could go on no more. And most commonly, what's associated with the fall of Atlantis is, technology, and ego, and maybe even the scientific community um, going in a direction that was not in alignment with the law of one and with the natural order of God. And when we think about the fall of Atlantis, it's truly is because the beings there separated themselves from their true essence and their true connection to source and started to create, because the Atlanteans were creators, we are creators. They started to create artificial and unnatural instead of allowing the organic and the natural to flow through them as creation. They kind of took on the role of God and decided that they could maybe do a better job than God did. And and ultimately it was the egoic mind. Once ego was inserted into the community, and especially into the priest and priesthood and the scientists and the leaders, once the infiltration of dark or the ego came in, that is when their separation from source and their law of one kind of took over, and they started to make choices that ultimately led to, in their ignorance, the downfall of the kingdom of Atlantis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we kind of see that again today, or very much so.
Yeah, I totally agree, and those are a lot of my memories too. And it seems like the heavier memories come up to the surface, or
Mhm.
brought to the surface, right? So that we can heal them and clear them, and make sure that we do that. Um, I do have a very strong memory of actually being a reptilian in that
Mhm.
life. I mean, we've had many lifetimes. Atlantis was what,
Right.
thousands of years or something like that. And
Yes.
yeah, so I remember human, quite a few, I'm going to say 4 or 5 human lifetimes. And would you agree that we lived probably hundreds of years back then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Longevity and
Mhm.
many incarnations, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I do remember quite a few human lifetimes, but I do remember one as a reptilian, which needed to be cleared during my sessions. And what happened was I was not a good guy at all, and I remember being one of the what they call the rebel Pleiadians. So
Mhm.
a group of rebel Pleiadians, and I came to Atlantis or during those time, to see what we can get, to see what we could pillage, that kind of thing. And the atmosphere was not conducive to my breathing, what I was able to breathe, and so I had to wear a rebreather type of thing. And there was a facility that was recycling air or doing something with the air in the levels, in the air. And so I got it in my mind at that time to steal it for me and my peeps, right?
Mhm.
Well, what happened was who I remembered as my in another lifetime as my husband, Syrian husband, big, gorgeous, beautiful man, Calrec, I'll never forget him, came into the room. He was one of the scientists or whatever that was dealing with that, and caught me stealing this air. And we ended up having a scuffle because he's very big and I'm very big as a reptilian. He's very big, so we fought over it, and he ended up knocking my rebreather off my face, and I was suffocating, but he didn't know it at the time. He was trying to put everything back together, and so I ended up expiring that way. And that was one karmic loop I had to heal and clear. And then I remember another lifetime with him, that same husband, where we're sitting in a pool of warm water. Okay, and it was a place that we would go, and the waterfall went over the cliff, and we were sitting there. We were married. I mean, we were mates, and we're sitting there just taking a nice warm bath. And I was pregnant with our child, and something happened. It was like a whirlpool, one of those, or a hot tub or something, because it was very warm. And I remember that apparently I didn't know that the baby wouldn't be able to take the heat or take it, and I started having really bad labor pains. I ended up losing the baby, and that was another one that I had to heal and release. Yeah. But there's a few others. I remember sitting with my council. I woke up one day, and here I am in front of my council. All these beings, some of them were extraterrestrials, and some were human. There was 2 Pleiadians, 1 Syrian, and other extraterrestrials in a gray sitting next to me over here. And they told me, among other conversations, that I was here to right the wrongs from Atlantis. And I said, and this was 20-something years ago, so I didn't know anything about it, Atlantis or anything like that. So I said, what wrongs, And, and they looked at each other.
Who, me?
Yeah. And they looked at each other and they said, let's just say it wasn't good. Yeah. So, but they didn't give me any information, any details that I remember. But I do remember.
They just said, listen, this was not good.
That's what they said. Yeah, they said, just know that it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Let's just say it wasn't good. But I do remember them giving me information about the people I was involved with at that time that were in my group, in my, my clique at that time, on, trying to, or not trying, but working on our spiritual progress, that they were some people that I needed to clear karma with, because I had apparently done DNA manipulations with them.
I remember DNA manipulations also. I remember being a part of that crew in an incarnation Atlantis, and and I had really no idea about DNA manipulation. Any of that was happening in Atlantis until I read something from Dolores Cannon and one of her Convoluted Universe books. I think I was reading one of her clients' accounts of being a scientist and performing through mind control genetic manipulations and mergings of 2 different creatures together, morphing them together to see, what they could make. And they did it in the name of science, and they did it because they could, and with no remorse or compassion for what those beings were going through, the pain that they were experiencing and the anguish of being caged, first of all, captured, and then forced to morph together. And I was reading this account for her client, I burst into tears. Like I absolutely started sobbing, and I knew that I had been there, and I knew I had done that. And I'm sobbing in my chair, just saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, just really, really losing my mind, because I knew that I had done that, done a version of that anyway. And I recognized, after kind of calming down and coming to terms with the experience, that I had a spontaneous soul remembrance, and that was part of what I was back here to course correct in my own soul, and also help to course correct on the planet, because this is an example of the inorganic, of something taking precedence, going to the inorganic instead of the organic, and doing something so malevolently in the name of science to try and play God, and to try and change reality. And we see that again today. We see these things happening where, genetic testing, genetic experiments. I read an article last week about how scientists have put together some kind of like successful merger of human and monkey cells to regrow organs. And if they're announcing it now, they've been doing it for at least 10 years, right?
At least
20 years, maybe. They're just letting us know about it. So, and in the name of science, like creating something that is artificial and inorganic to put in a human body to disturb the natural cells, the natural genetic material of humans, and create something else. So we are truly on the spiral of the last days of the fall of Atlantis.
Yes, totally. I've been feeling that, as you, and I'm sure you have, for the last, 20 years. We've come full circle with that. We're coming for full circle. And that's why a lot of us have come back. I feel, would you agree with this, Ameera, that probably a large percentage of the people on the planet now were from Atlantis?
Also in
Atlantis. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think pretty much everybody coming through, because we are really on the Atlantean timeline. There's an asteroid, there's an asteroid Atlantis. It's 1198 is the number of the asteroid Atlantis. And that is like the theme of the Earth's astrological chart. And it just went forward. It was retrograde for a while. On the 1st of May, it just went forward in Virgo. And so, I mean, we are truly here to heal that timeline. And I do believe that if you did not have a direct incarnation in Atlantis, your other aspects have, and you're still here to participate in some way in healing up the karma and the spiral.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of people that I'm sure you work with as well, where it's their Atlantis lifetime comes up in a lot of the session, and part of the session, where there's that deep pain, deep hurt, and people don't know where it's coming from. And
I work with people. I have direct Atlantis and Lemurian reconnection sessions with people to go into those memories, or the good stuff, remember the good stuff and the gifts,
right.
And really help people from a conscious level understand and heal and integrate what they know on some kind of an unconscious level.
Speaking of which, I just want to share one thing I shared with Ameera earlier before we came on. Hi, Celine, good to see you. Where we're talking about the hybrid beings, that the DNA manipulation and all that. This morning, I ended up in my travels on, I don't know where it was, whether it was on a planet, whether I was in Atlantis or what, but I saw these two animals in a field, and the grass was golden, and the animal who turned and looked at me, and just looked at me across the field, just curious, that kind of look, and he had a black, he was like a horse being, but he had the body of like a horse, but he had a black mane, which was just gorgeous, like a lion mane. And at the time, I didn't think about it at all, just what a beautiful animal he was. And he just gorgeous black mane like that, and a golden body. And I remember that his fur was more fuzzy, like a cat, like a lion. And there was another animal with him who didn't really look at me. And I think she was grazing, and I believe was a female, and she didn't have a mane, but she just had the body of like a horse, but like the fur of a lion. And it dawned on me afterwards when I came back to this reality, that I wonder if that is an Atlantean hybrid that we created, or was I on another planet? And Ameera did ask me to feel into it and whether I felt it was organic or non-organic, which you mean non-organic by it was a manipulation, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I felt it was organic. I felt that. So I'm going to stick with that.
Well, and why wouldn't there be all kinds of creatures,
Mhm.
interdimensional creatures, other planetary creatures that aren't here on Earth? Like,
Thank
of
you.
course there would be.
Thank you.
Of course there
Yes.
would be.
Right. But it was just such a gorgeous animal. And I thought it was very synchronistic, which, I'm sure that's why he showed up for our talk today. Yeah. So what about sharing some of our better memories of Atlantis and Lemuria? Do you have any memories of Lemuria?
My memories of Lemuria are all in the water.
Mhm.
I believe I was Myrrh in the water, and I know that I came up to the surface and took part in the birthing pools and the birthing temples, and helped the Lemurians bring their babies into the world. And
Nice.
they did it, they did it through the water.
Uh-huh.
They were all water babies, and of course all the other cetaceans and things were there in support also. And so my memories, that's one of the biggest memories I've have is like being that space holder and frequency holder for the new Lemurian children and the new Atlantean children too, to come in through the water. My memories of Lemuria are all very beautiful and light. I don't have any density or any remembrances that weren't really wonderful about taking part in that reality. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. One of my, I think, strongest memory of Lemuria was uh, I was didn't have this heavy form. I had more of a form that was didn't have hair, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and had like a silver gray skin. And I was in a temple with some other. We were healers, and we were part of this healing group, and people would come into the temple, and what we would do is we would breathe or send healing from our
Mm-hmm.
orifices to the beings that would come to see us from our orifices of our
Your ha, you send your ha, the aloha.
there you go. Yes. Yes, totally. And I remember that was really an amazing experience. And I don't have any negative experiences of Lemuria, except for the transition to Atlantis, which what I you were talking about Dolores Cannon's book, and I got triggered a lot in her books too. And I remember
Yeah.
that convoluted universe book where she was talking to those people about Atlantis. Yeah, those the
The
hypnosis
war between
clients.
Atlantis and Lemuria.
Mm, okay.
It was the
Yeah.
war.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I also, when I was triggered as well as Shirley MacLaine's book, the
The
the Camino.
Camino. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and I sobbed like you were talking about. I just
Yeah.
sobbed with her memories of the transition from Lemuria to Atlantis, with the
Mm-hmm.
crystal technology, and also the
The
splitting
split
into
in the
masculine
masculine
and
and
feminine.
feminine. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I remember that deep in my soul as I was reading her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this as she's going through that experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a deep one too, definitely. I mean, how could it not be, right?
Yeah. And in my in my understanding, the split between Atlantis and Lemuria, because Lemuria held the feminine and Atlantis held the masculine, they were really meant to work and live and thrive in tandem and support of each other. That war and that split between the two of them was the macrocosmic split to the microcosmic split we experience in humanity in our own masculine and feminine. We've been trying to get back there ever since, right?
Yeah.
We've been trying to unionize our own internal masculine, feminine, internal hieros gamos,
Right.
and even ultimately, in some cases, reunite with our literal human or mate, our mate, our other half. So
Other
there's
half.
all these different dynamics that came as a fallout, as a ripple effect, really, of Atlantis and Lemuria, that humanity is really striving to understand on the bigger picture level, and then also understand, like in our human minds, why we feel and act out in the world the way we do.
Right. Makes so much sense. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So I did have one question in mind before we move on or talk about a little bit more about Lemuria and Atlantis is, so what are your thoughts on the Mer Beings? Because in Dolores Cannon's books, and I've heard this other places, that that there was manipulation to create fish people. Okay. So what are your thoughts on that and the Mers? Do you feel that they're a different species, a different type of being, or do they? Well, you said you were a water being in Lemuria, so that would, I'm assuming, would be different. But just give me your thoughts on that, if you would.
Okay, so my soul, the major aspect of my soul that I come through, the stream that I come through, is from Mintaka, which is the blue planet in Orion's belt. It's the blue water planet. And when water first came to Earth, when water fell to Earth, it fell from the cosmos. It fell from Mintaka, and the Myrrh came with it. So water was the original element on Earth, and it was much different water. It was much more primordial. It was primordial water. It was the liquid plasma light primordial water that came to Earth. And the Myrrh, what we would call the Myrrh, that's not what they call themselves necessarily. The fish people,
right,
came with it, came with the water and fell to Earth, knowing that we would go through this evolution along with the Earth, as the Earth evolved over billions of years, or however long it's been, that the water would change, we would change, and that we would eventually shift our forms, our primordial forms, and Mer looked much different. The actual Mer looked much different than like the contemporary beautiful mermaid you see,
the human,
the pinups. Yeah,
the human type of Mer,
human version. Mer come in many different varieties, as many varieties as there are fish in the sea. There are varieties of Mer, and most of the Mer look more fish-like. We look more fish-like than we look human. We have, big fish eyes, and we think we're beautiful, right?
Yes, of course.
But we are the things, we're much more fish-like than human-like. The Mer that we see in contemporary art and literature is a human translation. I think even sometimes when Mer would come up to the surface and meet with humans, they would kind of have to shift into something more human-like, so they didn't scare the shit out of the sailors, right? Like, so, because when they did come up looking like that, like that's what we get the idea, the concept of, like, the evil Mer beings. So they're like, oh, well, this isn't working. So maybe we come up and we look like these beautiful, and some of us are going to seduce the sailors and maybe drown them. And some of us are just going to teach them and meet with them. But as humans, we're fascinated with Mer, and the Mer are fascinated with humans. But just know that, the concept of the idea of what Mer people look like is much, it's much different. Some have hair, some don't have hair. Some have scales, some have, it's all different varieties. So when we came with original water, with the primordial water, and decided to participate in the evolution of what we would call planet Earth, from being a completely water-based planet into, land masses and all of the elements, That's how we came. So to kind of fast forward into your question about our hybrid,
Mhm.
or are they, are they organic? Are they not organic? The Mer people went through many, many evolutions, just as the human species and all creatures go through evolutions. The Mer have always been in some form. We have always been here. We are still here in many different forms and realities. The experiments that you see done or accounted for in the different books and things are the Atlantean attempts to artificially recreate a mer creature that they could not capture and access. They couldn't access us, so they had to recreate us.
Mhm.
Through taking a human and taking some kind of a fish. And I think that there were times in Atlantis they did actually capture Myrrh. I think they did capture and encapsulate some of the Myrrh.
Yeah.
There are some Mer beings who remember actually being captured and encapsulated and being experimented on, but they were Myrrh before.
Yeah.
This was the Atlanteans' attempt to artificially recreate something that is Myrrh. And the reason you don't read about what I just told you in these books is nobody's reported it yet.
Yeah. Right.
It's a memory. This is a memory that I have, and maybe some other Mer have, that just hasn't been reported through a regression or a spontaneous remembrance. And so I talk about this a lot in my videos.
Mhm.
I'm talking about this. And so the idea that the Mer were originally artificially created is not true.
Yeah. That didn't sit right with me either when I was listening to it. And what you're saying totally resonates with what I've been feeling and what I know to be true for me too. Definitely. Yeah. Because how could we have, as a being, and there's a lot of us out there, how could we have such a deep connection to a being that was artificially created?
Right.
There has to be
Right.
a deep connection there.
And the Mer and the water are very, very important. The Mer beings, the reason you see so much mermaid iconography out in the world, every little girl wants to be a mermaid. There's mermaid art. There's mermaid memories coming to the surface so significantly over the last maybe 5 to 7 years. Is the mermaid story, the archetype needed to come from fantasy and unconscious into conscious realization, conscious physical manifestation for the help of humanity. The Mer, because we are water, water is emotions, right? Water is life force.
Right.
Water is the reason anything and everything grows. It's water in 3 forms, the liquid, the solid, the gas, the mist, the fog. The element of water is so significant, and the Mer are the epitome of water. The heart of the Mer is the heart of the emotional center for the cosmos. So if we are talking about healing the heart of the emotional center of the cosmos being in our heart, okay, it is the Mer who hold the template for the sacred feminine, the divine feminine energy, that are bringing that forward. That's why there are so many women and men remembering being Mer, being connected to the Mer, and now it's out of fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's in the collective as a reality, and that's a very important part to the healing and the evolution of the ascension of this planet, the primordial water.
Nice. Beautiful. Yes. And when I connect to the cetaceans and the dolphins, and I get that very same message about they, as a collective, those beings also embodying that part of our cosmos, the heart, and with the Mers, because there's that connection. Would you agree? And I have goosebumps talking about it. That connection with with the whales, with the dolphins, with those beings, and all of that together.
Yeah, and there's many people who are incarnated dolphin and whales too. There's all kinds of people. I take people on journeys all the time, and they remember being a cetacean.
I remember being a dolphin. Mhm.
they look like, a lot of these people even look and they act like, happy dolphins, or they have the huge, immense wisdom and cautiousness of a whale. And they know that, that they share that grid and that mana and that life force with the cetaceans.
Yeah, beautiful. Totally. So how let's see, I'm just looking at my notes here. I don't want to forget anything that I wrote down. How would you say, and we talked a little bit about it, what Atlantis relates to current times, current day, to current events?
Okay. Well, essentially, we're in a parallel to the last fall of Atlantis 13,000 years ago. We're in a parallel reality, and the whole point of our existence, I guess, on this Atlantean timeline is to course correct and rewrite the fall of Atlantis, because that incident reverberated out and changed the entire cosmos. It changed everything in all of creation, because the beings that were there were players from every planet, civilization, reality, galaxy, okay, participating in this experiment known as Atlantis.
Mhm.
Atlantis was not a failure, like most people think. It was an experiment.
Right.
And when the variable was added to this, utopian perfect society, which was darkness or ego, the experiment terminated itself. The natural course nature couldn't support, because nature will always support what's organic, right?
Right.
Nature will always support creative destruction, create, destroy, recreate, and the natural order. Seasons are a good example of that. Everything, the moon cycles, everything that goes on and on and on is something that is natural, not something that's artificial. So when Atlantis, the experiment of Atlantis, it became clear that nature, that the source could not support this artificial, creation that became Atlantis. The termination was, the experiment was exterminated, and all beings with it, carry the karma, or carry the idea in their DNA that there is a correction that needs to be made to kind of balance out the energy and put everything back in natural order. So on December 21st, 2020, during the Grand Conjunction,
Yes.
we went through the centrifugal center point of the fall of Atlantis and came through the other side to begin to rewrite and course correct everything that happened through. Yeah. So the good news is it's not going to take 13,000 years to fix it. The
Very good news.
unraveling that we're seeing in the world right now, with everything coming to surface, with genetic manipulation, miscommunication, the lying and the disinformation, everything that seems so potent and so extreme, the depopulation agenda, all of that is so front and center right now, shocking people either awake or shocking them into wanting to leave the experiment, to check out off the experiment. People are either doing one of two things. They're either being shocked into this awakening and realization of what we've all co-created and how we've been misled and our participation, or they're doing something that's going to take them off the planet. There's no right or wrong in any of it. It is just soul agreements, soul contracts, and what we signed up for before we came. So those of us who are choosing to stay and like really ride this out and go through, the fire and the coming forward of all this information and feeling like maybe we're not getting anywhere. Sometimes it feels like that. And going deeper into the AI agenda, the AI agenda is everywhere. I wanted to get one of those Fitbit watches. And my girlfriend looks at me and she says, you're going to be hooked up to the AI 24/7 if you do that. I was like, damn it. I mean,
I
it's
ordered
everywhere.
one.
It's all around
and sent
us.
it back. Yeah, totally. Yes. I ordered one and sent it back. Yeah. So I'm like, nah, maybe not.
So we can't get away from it. And so the alternative to not being able to get away from it is to make our choices in our daily lives of how we want to care for our body as energy, how we want to feed ourselves, and how we want to stay connected to the natural world. Our healing begins and ends with our connection to the natural world, to the elements and Mother Earth, and to the food and how it's grown and how it comes through the earth and what we put in our bodies and how much time we spend out in nature, out of the technology and out of the AI and out of the propaganda, and even away from people
Right.
who, you know, might be carriers of AI or of all these things that are being artificially created. Boundaries in our relationships, not only energetic, choosing good, non-toxic relationships, but also recognizing that we're in a bizarro world.
Totally.
Like
Totally,
we are in a world where people are genetically modified. Genetically modified humans are a thing. And separating ourselves from that, but also realizing we're a part of that. It's like noticing this is maybe what the place I don't want to go, and making another choice, but also recognizing that we are all one and co-creating this together, and remembering times when maybe we were in Atlantis or someplace where we were the cause of the separation, and we were the cause of the maliciousness. So it's this balancing of like all sides of the Rubik's Cube. And seeing all sides of the Rubik's Cube and creating what I call soul sovereignty, you know, single soul sovereignty, sovereignty in our energy field, sovereignty in our bodies, so that we can choose to create ourselves in the natural order of God and life, if that's what we want, outside of somebody else's experience and what they're creating. So we get to be a part of it, and we also get to be outside of it. And the process of all of this is helping those of us who will stay here and create, which, you know, we all hope will be the new Atlantis, the new Earth, is participating in the shedding or the sloughing off and this exposure of everything that is unnatural to go back to what is natural and organic. And I don't know if that means, Sharon, that something's going to happen in the cosmos and the grids are going to shut down.
Yeah. Right.
And all technology will shut away and shut off all AI.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the plan, or if it'll be that drastic, or what is going to happen. But what I do know is that, you know, I have been shown, I think you've been shown too, that the path for this planet is ascension. And whether that means there are literally two different realities, a 3D and a 5D Earth, that split off, and there is a version of Earth that is left to the wicked and the foolish. I kind of lovingly call them those who have made a different soul choice, and those of us who are making our choices out of our galactic heart center and the natural and the organic, and are willing to sacrifice and give up the AI, separate ourselves, release the AI in all aspects of our life to create something different, something sustainable, something healthy and for this planet.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for putting that very succinctly and so
I don't know if I have all the
eloquently.
answers. I have 1,000 different thoughts every day about how is this going to go, but I do have to trust that I have put here for success.
Yes, totally. And I don't think we would be here if we weren't going to be successful. We wouldn't have, because we have the ability to see timelines, you know, and people that have been working on themselves and know and have memory of why we're here. There's tons and tons, thousands and millions of people who are here for that reason. Millions and millions of people are here for that reason. Yeah. And so I do not believe that we would have come back to this planet if there wasn't, you know, if there wasn't a plan, if it wasn't, yes, if we didn't have that plan for success and we knew it was going to come out, we just have to go through the motions, I guess, or have to deal with the challenges.
Getting over the savior, messiah, victim perpetrator mentality is a huge, huge piece of this.
I agree. Yeah.
No one's coming to save us. There are helpers. There are galactic helpers around us and among us, giving us guidance through this process. But, you know, and I think we did this because we knew we were eternal beings. We knew there was no death. And we knew the gamble was that ultimately we have nothing to lose because we can never be separated from God, and we can never be separated from our soul. We can have that feeling and that illusion or create that separation, but ultimately we will always belong to God.
Even if we think we're separated, but we're not. We're
Yeah.
never separate, because that's who we are. We are God experiencing and in playing this role. I guess I always like to say now that I'm playing a role. In this lifetime, I'm playing this role, and the other lifetime I was playing that role. You know,
Right.
To me, it's just ended up being like a play or a movie, and everyone's, and we're living. And what you were, is everyone's playing a role, right? What you were saying earlier, just about getting to a more organic type of life, I really love, because we've moved into a virtual reality, basically.
Yes.
Almost everything we do is virtual.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And we don't know what's real and not's real through that virtual reality.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And we also have a virtual, I don't know what you want to call it, but powers that be are very virtual, right? So, and like you said, we don't know what's real and what isn't. And so I love the idea of getting back to the organic way of being together in that organic manner, and experiencing the planet that way, and experiencing each other, humanity, because we are human and we need it. We need that. Yeah, it's what we need to survive. And and with everything that's going on with the pandemic, and people are just so, are depressed because they can't be with people. There's just so much that's happening with people that are causing that depression and suicides and everything like that, because we have been so disconnected from each other. Okay.
The probability of vaccine passports, and the ability for me not, inability for me to potentially go see my family who are not on Kauai, because I'm making an organic choice for my body.
Right.
I mean, I have moments where that's terrifying, and that is the installation of fear being put upon us because, again, having that separateness from our loved ones, from people we want to be with, like that there is a continuation of forcing us to be, to be apart and to use virtual reality. So I don't know, we're gonna have to learn teleport here pretty quick.
Yeah, I know, right?
The teleportation abilities, like if that could just really land, then it would be no big deal. And sometimes I wonder if there's always agenda behind agendas, and maybe there's an agenda that we have to physically not be able to go or travel so we can learn to teleport, so those abilities can come in,
right?
Trying to look on the bright side.
Oh, totally. Totally. And that's a good segue into the future, with moving into the higher frequency timeline, and moving into what we call the fifth dimension, and I see it as the 3D dimension is being deconstructed, is being torn down, I guess you could say it, and we're moving through the fourth dimension as we work on ourselves, and that's where we bring up our shadow parts and all that, and work on all those parts, and then we move into the fifth dimension where and we're extending, or we're sorry, I got a message here I need to get rid of on my screen. Okay. Where we are creating that dimension, or that construct, that matrix. Right? Would you agree with that? So we're doing that as we're creating that. And so that's where we will have, in my opinion, that's in feeling, and what I've seen many times in my experiences in my travels, we will have those experiences with teleportation, med beds, that type of thing.
Right.
Right. And being very telepathic with each other, and not even, basically needing to send an email or something like that. We just say, okay, I'm going to call Ameera, meet me at 6 o'clock.
Paging Ameera.
We're which we kind of do now anyway, if you're on that, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
if you recognize it. So, well, can you speak to that as well?
I think that everything we have seen in, the movies and TV that looks all futuristic and the teleporting and all of that, that all came from somebody's channeled mind of a potential future and a potential reality. And
Yes.
many of these things that look like maybe they're trying to come out or recently come out, like they've probably been around for a long time, but it's not been released or revealed to normal people. It's been kept a big secret. And maybe some of the elite of the world have had access to, some of this technology, and some of, the med beds, all of it, to help them. And it just has not been given to us.
Right.
It's been kept secret to us. So I believe a lot of this has already been, invented and is being utilized. And at some point when, whatever structure is in place that does not want to allow people like you and I access to teleportation or to, whatever amazing things that we can do, when that starts to dissolve, then I think it's just gonna land, and it's gonna be like it's here. There's really nothing to do but step into it and do it.
I know. I mean, imagine 10 years from now, I totally see us being able to travel in, well, not only teleportation perhaps, but in anti-gravity vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
My partner showed me a video the other day of military people in these jetpacks flying from a boat, and it's out there. And this has been going on for a
Mm-hmm.
while. I've seen lots of videos, jetpacks just rising up, flying in his little
Yeah.
jetpack from this little boat to the big boat,
Yeah.
the landing boat. I mean, that's mainstream now. So
Right.
that's been, we've had that. It's just been, like you said, it's been hidden from us. And maybe taking a shuttle to Mars or taking a
Yeah.
shuttle to the moon, and
Yep.
that type of thing. So, 10, 15 years probably is the timeline I'm getting. I mean, think about 10, 15 years ago. We never would have thought about doing this. It wouldn't have,
Right.
I remember seeing movies of someone talking, to their, to someone live on a TV screen in a movie, some futuristic movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not going to be long where we're going to be doing that.
15 years ago, we didn't even have phones that had cameras and video on them where you could do all these things. Like
Totally.
now we can imagine our life without a phone on our camera. But I worked in the wireless industry when it first started to come out. When a camera on a phone, on the Ericsson phone first, and it was a terrible photograph. It was like all blurry and pixely, but you could take a picture on your phone. And it was like, wow, this is the wave of the future. And I remember my boss saying, oh yeah, pretty soon, every single phone's going to be made this way, and they're going to take it. And I remember thinking, no way, no way. And now here we are. It's like, the cameras and the, the technology of the phones is so sophisticated, and it's something that 15, 20 years ago we could have never envisioned possible.
No, I never would have thought that I'd be carrying around a little computer with me,
Yeah.
smartphone, where I could do everything on my phone, conduct business, do whatever, everything on my phone.
Everything.
That's crazy. So let's see here, Timothy. For me, I have noticed that some people, I can feel their energy, but I have also noticed that there are some other people I can't feel their energy at all, and I have been wondering why. So I guess this is a question. By the way, if anyone would like to ask a question, you are welcome to, and we will try to answer as best as we can.
I'm not sure what he means by feel people's energy.
Okay.
We would be naturally more attuned to some people's emotions and thoughts and energy, I guess, than others. That might be what it means.
Yeah, it could be also mean that some people are closed off more than others, and not easier to read. Yeah. you know, a lot of people have walls around them, or just, you know, or just more introverted, or bring their
Mhm.
energies in close, where a lot of people are just, you know, like an open book
Wide
type of
open.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. So, does that answer your question, Timothy? Okay. I must be typing it. Um, is there anything else you wanted to share, Mira, about the current times and Lemuria and Atlantis, or your Mer
You know,
memories?
I think it's just always a good reminder, and I'll say it again, that, you know, we are eternal beings.
Yeah.
We are energy that never dies. And it's always recreating itself. And again, we're in kind of a sort of an experiment
Yeah.
as we were in Atlantis. And as creators, as extensions of God, we are always seeking to create and recreate and to experience and experiment and to see what's possible and gather information and experiences to see what's out there. And
Right.
so it helps take a little bit of maybe the fear, the anxiety over, you know, the nefariousness, the uncertainty of the world.
Yeah.
If and angry, since I get really angry and I get really like panic, I'm like, why don't they see it? Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
I really try to go back to that idea of neutrality, and you know, and having a lot of past life regressions and regressing a lot of people has shown me the breadth and width of experiences that are available to us, and that we come to have a part in it all. And that I don't really like to say there's no good and there's no bad. That's kind of a new age thing. There is always consequences that are going to go along with choices. Always a
Totally.
consequence. So we can say, you know, there's no good, there's bad, there's only, you know, experience. But I think it's really important to start taking responsibility for our own, for our choices and how we show up in life and how we treat people and how we act out into the world. Because bringing heaven on earth, if that's what we want to do, if we want to go back to the golden age of Atlantis, it is going to take a strong measure of self-responsibility and shadow work and making choices daily that are in alignment with self-love
Mhm.
and love for humanity, and recreating through choice points that are not creating and recreating a karmic cycle any longer.
Right. Very important is try to create as little karma as possible, or at least, like you said, be able to have the awareness to balance that within your lifetime.
Yeah,
Because that's the idea anyway. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes or having an error in judgment.
right.
It's but to have that awareness to balance it within that lifetime and let it go is then we don't have to come back and balance it another time.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're done. We usually learn by contrast. Humans learn by contrast, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Doing this extreme to experience this extreme.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to learn by extreme contrast anymore. We don't have to grow that way anymore. That's how we are. Mainly we've grown, is like big mistakes or like big crazy experiences or hardships. We can grow now, I think, through loving choices and you know, conscious choices and loving choices, and not like such extreme hardships.
Right.
I don't think we need, whoever put that in no pain, no gain thing into that human program. Come on, we're over that. Heaven on earth and like enjoying life starts now.
Hmm.
And it starts by how the creations and choice points we are choosing every day to step into. Like, I
Right.
want to be in joy. I want to be happy. I want to learn the hard way anymore.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, or most of us that are here and have been here a very long time, are saying that very same thing is, okay, I've been here long enough, and I know I need to forgive whatever I have
Mhm.
going on, and
Forgive. Yep.
yeah, and these difficult choices that I've made, I know are for my soul growth. I know that, but how about
Right.
some rest and relaxation, or just being we're always going to have challenges, totally, or else we wouldn't grow, but this construct, this matrix, this dimension, um, is a tough one, as you know, for
Yeah.
having challenges. So, when we look at it from a different perspective, as we're planning our life, we don't remember how tough it is, what I remember, and
Right.
to go through these experiences. So the souls like you and I, and millions of people on the planet, and they're helping a lot of people here, as a lot of people, we're all helping each other, have said, okay, now it's time to move into this fourth density or fifth dimension, where we live
Yeah.
from the heart rather from the in the sun chakra, the solar plexus,
Mhm.
that place of being in control and empowerment type of thing. Not that it's not active, but it's time to move our consciousness into the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, a place of love, right? Yeah.
Yeah, divine will instead of just acting off a willy-nilly free will.
Yeah. Right, totally. So I've been hearing a lot about 1,000 years of peace from as we move into the fifth
Mhm.
dimension, or that matrix.
Yeah, when's that going to start?
Okay,
When do
I
we
thought
get
maybe you had
that?
some insights on that.
I
Okay.
don't. I mean, they say it's coming. I got to believe it's coming. I think it's going to be a little while, to be honest. I think we got some years ahead of us that are gonna continue to challenge that idea.
Hmm. Yeah. And why only 1,000 years?
And why we're only getting, and it could be that 1,000 years, that's just like a metaphor, or
Right.
maybe it's just like an idea of like it's going to be 1,000. It could be, for all, I gotta believe, for all the work that we're doing, and it's like as hard as we're trying, when we become successful this, I gotta believe we're going to be given a lot more than 1,000 years.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. And it's all perspective anyway, right? And it's all in our
Right.
reality. Yeah, it's reality we create. So let's talk a little bit about timelines. You mentioned timelines, which I really enjoy talking about. The
Hmm.
timeline, the way I see it, I mean, there's infinite timelines, right? We create different timelines all the time, parallel
Right.
realities and different timelines, which with our thoughts, with our choices. So I know that I want to be on that timeline that moves moves up,
Yeah.
right? And so I see that there might be a timeline where that moves with that is. I see three major timelines, basically, or
Hmm.
major, which is strong timelines: moving up, status quo, and then moving down, which would be
Right.
AI. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I that's exactly what I see too. There, we talk
Okay.
about timeline splits, and I see two major ones, but then I also see like a third one
Mm-hmm.
that is, I don't know really how to explain it, other than it's like some kind of neutral space, or some kind of like, maybe it's a purgatory space. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly what to call it. And then there's times within timelines too, because everybody's on
Right.
their own journey.
Right.
There's some major pathways, some major segues and openings, and then every one of us is kind of falls on our own individual path and timeline there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's cover again what we can talk about to maybe help others, and I'm always learning as well. I've learned so much just talking to you, Amira. I'm amazed. Well, I'm never amazed, but you know what I mean. But so what we can
Yeah, it's
do?
shocking. I know this much.
No, not at all. We haven't had this conversation in a very, very long time, and
Right.
so we both have gleaned so much, right? Since, gosh, it's been years and years and years. So since we've had a conversation like this, dedicated to
Hmm.
Atlantis and Mer, the Mers, our Mer peeps. So let's talk to what we can do to make sure that what people can do. And I know you touched on a little bit to be on that higher timeline, because I get that a lot. People ask me, how do
It,
I,
it the higher going with, if you want to call it the ascending earth or fifth dimensional earth or whatever you're talking about, it's all, it's all labels.
yeah,
But if you want to
totally,
go on that,
totally,
your connection to your self, your soul, your sovereignty, and the natural world is very, very important. So I have spent probably 10 years of my healing career teaching people about their body as energy and their aura and how to clear their aura, protect their aura, how to bring in high vibes and colors into their auric field. And I didn't really understand why I was doing it to the extent I understand it now. Is because this is your sacred space. This is all about you, your frequency, what's coming and going from you, between you and the rest of the world, or between you and the creator. So the more sovereignty you have in your own sacred space, the more clarity, the more purity, the more organic material is, as you, through you, the better you're going to feel. And we do that through a lot of ways. I mean, the logical ways are like, stay off of GMO foods and process, like what we're putting in our bodies right now. I've never been a preacher of what to ascend. Like, I don't really believe in that you can only eat one kind of way and still evolve as a human, because everybody is different. Some people need meat. Some people need meat. Some people don't and don't want it. What I encourage people to do with their eating is tune into it, and whatever your body needs, make the best possible choice of food within that. So if you're gonna eat meat, know where it's grown, know how it's treated, know how it's killed, okay? And put that in your body if you're going to have meat. Stay with local farm grown vegetables from your area if you can, non-GMO. Those things just make sense. Stay off the process. Like, it's so important now. And I'll just use like the whole, kind of vaccine episode that's happening with the shedding coming off of vaccinated people, and vaccinated people actually making other people sick through what's coming off of them, and women's menstrual cycles. Like, our body's energy, what we're treating, and how we're elevating our immune system and vibrating our cells really is front and center right now to take care of yourself so you feel good. It's all about feeling good. And also being outside, being outdoors, being in the natural world, doing and participating in anything that is natural and organic, and stepping out of the AI simulation that we are immersed in, like we're bathed in it.
Yes.
24/7 are really big keys to helping yourself to stay on your, on your most desired timeline. There's no secret formula, no magic wand. There's also the internal work. There's also the shadow work. There's also the self-responsibility and not taking on the victim perpetrator mindset anymore, the forgiveness. So there's all these like holistic parts that come to play that are going to help all of us universally, and then all of us in our own kind of unique way. So, I mean, I guess that's the best advice that I would have.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. That's great advice. Yeah, I just personally, I think also that it also comes down to, along with that, of course, how we treat people, how we treat ourselves, and being in the heart, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a kind person and you're, and you live from your heart, and you are always, looking to help people and being of service and all that stuff like that, that's all you need. Right?
Just don't become a murderer.
Don't become, no, of course not. But yeah, no, don't want that. No codependency or anything like that. But just being a kind person and being true to your heart and living in your heart, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think is basically what it's kind of boils down to. And if anyone studies the law of one, that's what Ra talks about, is moving into the fourth density or the higher dimension. Anyone whose thoughts are 51% or more on being of service to others rather than service to self. Not mean you don't take care of yourself, but what can I get, what can I do? How can I get out of something for me? What's in it for me, kind of thing. And so that, there's clear sailing.
Yeah. And remember that we can yoga, meditate, and green shake all day long. But if what's going on between your ears is not Pono, if it's not good, if it's destructive, None of that other stuff is going to matter. It's the self-talk and the kind self-talk and the loving self-talk and the self-care
Right.
that is really the discipline or the practice to making everything else work for your health.
Perfect. And that's what we project, right? Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Any closing comments before we end? I don't see
Nope,
any
that's
other
it. If
questions.
anybody is interested in working with me or getting to know a little bit more about my work, you can find me at ameerabeth.com. I'm also on Facebook under Ameera Beth Mer Healer or Ameera Atlantis, and I'll be happy to talk further with any of you or step in and play the role of the healer, the teacher in some capacity if that's what you think that you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. So thank you everyone for being here and for watching. And we're going to sign off now. And please give us the Mer ending, the ending saying that the namaste in Mer. I forgot what it is. Ashahi.
Ashihi,
Ashihi.
Ashihi. Yes.
Ashihi. Ashihi. Thank you. And that is my light blesses the light in you. Correct? The light in me blesses the light in you.
Thank you for allowing me to express myself today.
Oh, of course. All right. Thank you, Pete.